Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before I do anything, I need to show you guys my shirt. Saved by the Bell was like my favorite show of all time growing up, and I still love it. I have all the DVDs, watch them often. Okay, anyway, enough rambling. I am rocking this new brow, new look, Foxy eye tutorial. This has been kind of coming to YouTube recently. It's been on Instagram for a while, but it's finally making its way into my YouTube feed. So I've been seeing this around for a little bit and decided I wanted to go ahead and put out a tutorial on it. It's very like Bella Hadid, very lifted. We play a lot with shape and angles in this, so it's a lot of steps, y'all. But just trust me, okay? My biggest piece of advice is when you're doing this look or any new technique, use stuff that you're comfortable with. Don't try new tools and new products when you're trying a new technique. Use your tried and trues that you know are going to work. Even if it's not the same stuff I have, use what you know that you like, that you know is going to work for you, okay? Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want to see how I got this non-surgical eye lift look, aka Foxy eyes, cat eyes who? I'm Foxy. Let's go ahead and get started. So I know I just posted a brow tutorial video, and that is still how I do my brows on the daily. However, for this look specifically, the brow shape is a little different. So I'm going to start with the brows. I'm going to start by combing the brows up. Okay, now most people's brow just naturally arches and the shape goes up to an arch and then down. The shape we're going to use for today's tutorial though is more of a straight brow or even like a soft arch brow. I'm going to leave a soft arch in mine. I need some kind of brow wax to hold those brows on the outer corner. And I'm going to go over that, not the whole brow, but definitely that outer half of the brow. I'm laying down my brow wax. Okay, and I'm starting underneath. And I'm filling in to where my brow would normally arch. And once I've filled over to that arch where I would normally build the rest of that brow, angling down, I'm going to start building it more straight. If it looks crazy here, that's fine. That's why they make full coverage concealers. Okay, and once I have the brow on, I primed my eyes using MAC's Painterly Paint Pot. And now I'm going to conceal around the brow just to sharpen it up a little more. I like to use a super flat brush. This is a MAC 212. And I like to start, when I'm carving a brow, I like to start in the arch because that's where you generally want the most lift. And so if I start in the center, that's where that concealer will be the most intense. That's where it will give the most lift. That's how to naturally carve out a brow, is don't make your concealer so super intense all the way around the brow. You want it the most intense where you want the most lift, which is about in the center and on the outer part of your brow. Do the front part of your brow and the top of your brow when you have minimal product left on your brush, and that will give you a much more natural but still cut brow. And I also used that concealer to cover up the little spraggly brow hairs that I had hanging around down here that I laid down with that brow wax. Starting out, I'm using MAC's Kid Shadow. I have a super fluffy brush in that shade Kid, and I am bringing it out toward the temple, toward that brow to get my angle. And the majority of the color payoff is in this area here. Next, I'm using the shade Quarry from MAC and a brush that's just a little smaller than that first one. And I'm following that same shape that I just laid down with that first shadow. But because the brush is a little smaller, it's not diffusing it quite as much, and it's starting to build that shape that I want. So I'm not quite taking it all the way out to the brow, but I'm stopping just before I get to the brow. So that's like my stopping point. Just like when I'm driving, I need landmarks. Okay, next I'm using the shade Finjan from MAC. It's a new shade, and I'm going in with a brush that's just a little smaller than the last two. A good rule of thumb is the darker my shadows get, the smaller my brushes get. This is why they call it the eye lift without surgery, because everything is angled up. Okay, once I get to this point, I'm going back to that very first brush I used with nothing else on it, and I'm going to make sure that there's no harsh lines. I'm going right over where I just laid those three shadows down. The darkest eyeshadow I'm going to be using is the shade Ground Brown from MAC. And if you don't own this shade, do yourself a favor and order it now. I'll wait. Just stop and order it. It's beautiful. It's so pretty and buttery and deep, and oh my goodness. I'm using this teeny tiny brush from Sonia Kashuk. It's a little smaller than a pencil brush. Starting on that outer corner, I'm almost building a wing. Okay, I'm going back to the shade Finjan, and not the pencil brush, but the smallest fluffy brush that I used. I'm going right on top. And I am laying this shade just on that outer third. I'm stopping where my iris starts, so right here. But but I'm making sure not to round it into the crease because this is not a rounded eye look. When it gets to the crease, I'm pulling to make that really angular shape. Okay, I'm taking a flat shader brush in the shade Vanilla from MAC, and I'm pressing that on the front part of the lid. Got that same vanilla shade and that same brush, and I'm going under the middle part of my brow. Starting in the middle is going to give me the most lift there, and then working side to side is going to help blend it. Okay, I'm going back to Kid, the very first shade I used and the very first brush that I used. I'm going right where those two shades meet, which should be about the center of the lid, right in the middle of the iris. Okay, for liner, I'm using MAC's Black Track Fluid Line. Okay. I'm starting about middle of the lid. I want it really, really thin as I get over to the inner corner. And I'm using a thicker brush than I normally would for a liner. That's why it's giving more of a smoked out and blended look as I apply it. I'm going on top of that liner using Ground Brown Shadow and a super flat brush. So I'm not going to bring the smoky liner past the inner part of my iris. So I'm stopping right here, and we'll come back and finish that part of the liner later. Once I have that liner set, I'm using a waterproof liner in the waterline, but I'm not bringing it all the way across. I'm only going to use it in the outer third. The whole point of this look is to keep that inner part of the eye really, really open. And everything else is really, really angled just up toward the end of that brow that we created. So again, I only brought it about a third of the way over. My stopping point for most things is where that iris starts. I'm going back to the shade Finjan and that flat brush, and I'm running a little bit under the lashes. Again, I'm not bringing this all the way over, and I'm also using a really flat brush because I don't want to bring it too far down. This look, if I brought it too far down, it would really round out the under eye, and the top part of the eye would be super angular and it would just look off. So that's why I'm using a flat brush, is to keep everything really snug to the lash line, okay? So about probably just a little bit further over than I did that black shade, but really, really snug to the lash line. Just on that very outer part of the lower lash line, I'm going with the same brush in the shade Brown Brown. Okay, for mascara, I'm using L'Oreal Voluminous Carbon Black. I've already primed my face using the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. And for foundation, I'm using the Milani 2-in-1 Conceal and Perfect. I can't wait to get better lighting. Surprise! I have not worn concealer or foundation or powder under my eyes for about a year now. But I decided on a whim just to try the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, and I really like it. It doesn't settle like a lot of concealers that I have. I mean, it shows a little bit of texture, but hello. I'm not 12 anymore. I have texture. It's a thing. It's going to show if I put anything there. It's nice as an option if I want to brighten. I don't always need it, so it's not something that I'm using every day, but I like to have it as an option. If Shape Tape from Tarte and NARS Creamy Radiant smooshed and had a baby, this is what it would make. Shoot. And now that I've covered 50% of the foundation that I laid down with concealer, I'm going to blend that out using the same Morphe Beauty Sponge. Okay, and because this is a hydrating concealer, I'm blending under my eyes last. That way, letting it sit for a little bit gave those moisturizers in the concealer time to really absorb into my under eye, and I'm left with more pure pigment to blend out, and that'll give me a little more coverage from the concealer too. And the reason I opted for the Morphe Beauty Sponge is because it has this really precise flat edge, and I'm really concentrating on cleaning that up. And because everything that I'm doing today is so angular, I really want that precision. Okay, I'm going to set my under eye using MAC's Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Light. And before I powder the rest of the face, I'm going to go ahead and cream contour using my Anastasia Beverly Hills Cream Contour Kit. And even with my contour, I'm going to make it a little more angular than I normally do. So normally I start from the center of my ear and bring my contour down. For this look, I'm going to start from the top of my ear and bring my contour down. That's going to give an even more angular and lifted appearance. To set the face, I'm using MAC's Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Medium. This is just a face full of Mineralized Skin Finish because for bronzer, I'm using Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Give Me Sun. For blush, I'm using this one from Lancome, Sheer Amoureuse. I butcher every Lancome name because it's in French, and I haven't had French since I was a sophomore in high school, which was a few too many years ago. Okay. You really want the blush to start here and to bring it down, because that's going to help keep everything really lifted. But I'm not going to use a ton of blush. I just want enough to give me a little bit of flush, just a little color. The eye is very matte, so I do want to add just a little bit of glow to the face. I'm going to use Silver Dusk from MAC. It's a loose highlighter. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh. You know, and just like with the blush, I don't want to bring it down too far. I want the majority of the focus on this look. Just, you know, I just want it snatching everything up. Okay, the lashes I'll be using today are from Eylure. I'll insert a picture here somewhere. They are actually a 3/4 length lash, not a full inner to outer corner lash. Now, we always talk about getting the lash as close to the lash line as possible, putting it in that little pocket. Not today, okay? Today, we want to start the lashes at the lash line. So the shortest part of the lash will be at the lash line. But on this outer corner, we're actually going to lay the lash on the lid. Make sure they're pulling up and not falling down. But see how that just helps with the continuity of the the shape that we're creating. If we were to put it in the pocket, you would have a rounded lash and an angular shadow. Okay, to finish off the eye, I am using an eyeliner pen. This one is Brushstroke from MAC, and I'm going over that liner band. And also between the false lashes and my natural lashes, because I laid the lashes on the lid, there might be a little bit of lid showing, and I want to make sure there's no gap. So we have really extended the eye going this way. We are going to extend it just a little bit on the inner corner here, okay? I like to hold my felt tip just far back like I do my brush. And just barely, I mean, the tiniest little flick right there at the inner corner. And then I'll bring it up and connect it to the rest of the liner on the lid. I've already primed my lips using MAC's Prep and Prime Lip. I'm going to fill all the way in using Stone Lip Pencil. And on top, I'm using L'Oreal Dose of Cocoa. It's one of the chocolate ones, number 848. Oh God, my camera's about to die. Okay, so this is the completed look. I hope you guys like it. I hope you had fun, maybe learned a little something new, playing with some new techniques and stuff. It's not the double cut crease super intense looks that we're used to seeing, but it's definitely glam. It's definitely dramatic. It's definitely worth the time, right? So let me know what you think. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below, and I'll see you guys next time.